Greetings guys, and welcome to our Scallion Center seminar. Now, today's discussion will be brief, but we'll be taking a bit of a dive into combating ferals and alternative means of taking them on. Presenting with me today is my TA Mascara and Apprentice Junior.
Good day, guys. I think this has been a recurring theme throughout our lethal seminars ever since the harsh introduction of the mutated blood feral. But I understand that this seminar was also partially inspired by another viewer question. So let's get started. Junior?
Correct, Mascara. Our question today comes from Cordell Prince, whom after attending our seminar on juggernauts was curious about ferals, but was curious as well about the effectiveness of the assault kick. For those that aren't too familiar with maxed skill effects, Assault is a shooting skill specialization that allows one to perform a kick while aiming down their sights.
Ah, yes. What makes this kick different from a regular combat kick is that it will always ground a Z. But London, given all the other discussions that have involved ferals, aren't there already working strategies to take them down effectively?
Well, sure, but they are sparse and brief. Just as a quick recap of what we know about combating ferals, if one has a firearm, nothing beats having the gunslinging skill while perched on top of a car or elevated environmental piece. Take caution though, as they can climb low rooftops, such as large garbage containers or small facility sheds. When fighting on ground level, however, tactics will naturally change. It's not enough to stand and shoot, as they can come in packs of 3. And on rare occasion, have a fourth one join with enough time.
A natural part of combat is knowing when and how to evade. As you had discussed in your first lethal survival guide, sprint more, dodge less. Unfortunately, ferals have the ability to spread blood plague just from lunging toward a given survivor, even if no damage is done. Brief sprinting with slight diversion is enough to escape this effect, even while stamina is depleted.
This maneuver takes some getting used to and understanding of feral attack patterns, but it will be worth the effort to avoid contracting the plague. Part of this equation is learning how to strike appropriately so as to minimize odds of being countered while in a combat animation lock. Without the use of heavy weapons, the best way to avoid an animation lock is to only use the initial strike animation without transitioning into a follow-up strike animation. This will ironically allow many more successful strikes than if one were to repeatedly strike with connected animation strikes and be opened to a counter-strike by the feral.
But London, let's be real here. Hand-to-hand combat with a feral should be a last resort, or simply a never if there is more than one. And if there is only one, then powerhouse is the best skill to have because of the drop kick, which is a feral's kryptonite, provided one does not have a heavy weapon equipped.
I'll contend that position with one of my own. I will simply call this the rules of engagement with ferals. When facing a single feral, hand-to-hand combat is reasonable and allows the most options, such as the one you described. You can shoot, you can evade, you can use close combat, you can try to time explosives, etc., etc. 2 ferals, and hand-to-hand combat is still doable, but requires more patience and is best accompanied with marathon or a buttload of stimulants. Having a firearm and an elevated position is also recommended. 3 ferals and options are severely restricted to either evasion or an elevated position with a firearm. With the right skills or quantity of stimulants, one can maintain their hope in surviving against 1 to 2 ferals with melee combat.
So it is doable, but both time-consuming and dangerous. But I guess this is good to know in the event one is trapped in a 2-on-1 feral situation without a firearm, or if one only has the ammo for one feral, should a pack of them approach a given survivor. I think the same logic can apply to a feral mixed in with a crowd.
Absolutely. It's rare that one faces off with a feral with absolutely nothing else around to interfere. One of the perks with interfering Zeds is that ferals actually knock them over every time they run past, which helps with dealing with a feral uninterrupted. But now, moving on to Cordell Prince's question, we're going to be testing to see if the assault kick is as effective as the powerhouse drop kick. Just to make sure that we are thorough, I'll be displaying this on a few different ferals.
I feel like shit. Gotta see a doctor.
So the assault kick, though not as powerful as the drop kick, still seems to deliver high impact. It appears to imitate the effects of a heavy weapon, and with repeated use, it actually stuns the feral and opens it up to execution. Now, London, Cordell Prince made an interesting point, that it will have to be tested multiple times since the assault kick is inconsistent. But I noticed in your demonstration that you were able to kick the feral multiple times with no or very few blunders.
Well, I understand where Cordell Prince is coming from. My first time ever using the assault kick, it seemed highly ineffective and almost useless compared to a regular kick to maintain distance. But it all comes down to how you use it, which is what I learned over time. The best way to actually use the drop kick is to aim down your sights and press the kick command almost simultaneously. In a similar fashion, one would tap the grab and strike button simultaneously to quickly execute a down Zed or initiate a close combat standing execution. When the assault kick is commanded in this manner, a Zed could be completely out of view and still be knocked down. So one can be in the middle of regular combat and perform the assault kick in a split second, for a quick knockdown and resume fighting normally. You can essentially relate this method to the shove attack that comes from the close combat skill. The only downside is that one can only kick one Z at a time, but at least they are guaranteed to go down. So be quick when using this command.
That is interesting and effective. Now, I'm also noticing that the survivor you used to kick the feral into submission also had powerhouse. Does this make a difference in performing against ferals?
Fair question, Mascara. Let's find out.
I spotted a feral.
This took a couple of experiments. So based on the observation, the impact does appear to be different based on whether one actually has a heavy weapon equipped rather than simply having powerhouse. Otherwise, the assault kick's effect disappears. But even without the heavy weapon equipped, the feral still died rather quickly afterward, implying that the assault kick still had an effect on health, but had less apparent impact.
So given what you know about this assault kick, would you recommend it as an advantage to use against ferals? Does it affect your point about the rules of engagement with ferals?
Not really. I would still go with my algorithm on the rules of engagement and would actually favor the intervals of melee strikes I described earlier, as it is much faster and has less of an animation lock. But I will at least say that the assault kick is not useless if employed properly, and is an effective alternative means for striking ferals. I personally don't recommend its use against more than one feral unless there is substantial space between the two.
And one more thing, Cordell Prince. The assault kick has no effect on doors, but if one is trying to kick down a door, you might as well sprint towards it.
Nice catch, Mascara, thank you. And thank you, Cordell Prince, for the question that inspired the seminar. Otherwise,
though, that is all these onions have to say. Thank you very much, guys, for attending today's seminar, and we'll see you next time.
Well, that's usually my line. I guess I'll see you guys next time. I look forward to your findings on the discussion boards.